Now, for more on this story, our Middle East correspondent Ariel Oseran joined me in studio. Ariel, this report, if true, is very significant for Israel. Break it down for us.
Indeed, Guy. It's interesting that this followed the nuclear talks because these are two issues regarding Iran that Israel has been trying to influence in recent years. One, the nuclear deal or nuclear talks. The other, Iran's entrenchment in Syria. It appears that so far the latter has been more successful. Now, this report in Al Arabiya comes after days of Iranian or pro-Iranian militias repositioning themselves in Syria. And as for this latest report, it's not quite clear if we're talking about a full stop in operation or some form of recalibration. But this does come amid, I think we can point out three main reasons that prompted this decision. The first one, you mentioned it yourself, Russia's withdrawal of its air defense systems from Syria. This made targeting Iranian militias more difficult. They had this umbrella over their heads. The other is Russia urging Iran to hold back on its attacks to, quote, not provoke Tel Aviv. This was also included in the Al Arabiya report. And third, we've seen multiple reports that in recent years, Syrian President Bashar Assad, he is trying to reduce friction with Israel. He, in fact, prohibited the Iranians from carrying out attacks against Israel from Syrian soil. This has been in effect for 3 years. So we're seeing in a quite a long period of time, the Iranian militias more limited in their activity against Israel, an uptick of strikes by Israel, according to foreign reports, and also by the U.S. coalition on Iranian-backed militia. All this are putting them in a situation where they need to, at the least, recalibrate their operations in Syria.
And Ariel, all of this, of course, comes as Iran is engaged in the negotiations to strike a new nuclear agreement with world powers. Is this does Iran have something to prove to the world, or is it just merely a strategic decision from Tehran to keep its powers close to home?
Well, these two things are happening at the same time. For Iran, they don't tie the nuclear talks to their proxy activity in the region. And at large, you start your question by saying that Iran is engaged in the talks. According to how these recent months have transpired, it's not. I wouldn't necessarily go as far to say that they're engaged in these talks, because we see close to a stalemate in these conversations. Both the Iranians and the Americans have handed in their responses to what the EU top diplomat Josep Borrell called his final text to try and converge the sides. But just yesterday, that same Borrell said that these past 48 hours have been the most, he has been the least optimistic in the chances of being able to strike any sort of deal. The Iranians are saying that they still haven't heard from the American response. So once again, we're seeing exchange of accusations from both sides, with no results leading to any chance of reviving the 2015 nuclear deal anytime soon.
Yes, a lot of uncertainty, and perhaps good news for Jerusalem if it wishes that this deal will not come to life. Ariel Oseran, Middle East correspondent, thank you so much.